Hey guys, Tony here. This is episode 5 of Candlesticks and Coffee. And here I have my protege, my little brother, Logan Leidick. He's going to talk about the turmoil or maybe the lessons that he learned as a new trader and maybe shed some insight on traders who maybe are trying to self-teach, who probably should more align themselves with mentorships or courses or paid content. And maybe talk about some of the challenges that you're having in your first 2 months of trading. Just go
Yes,
ahead and introduce yourself. Yeah.
my name's Logan. I've been trading for about 3 months now. Stefan is my only mentor, only person that I've learned from other than teaching myself. And I can say that it's helped me a great deal because right off the bat, I knew what risk management was. I mean, so I have never blown an account. Um, right off the bat, I to follow structure. So it helped me expand my knowledge myself, knowing what I should learn and knowing what I should avoid, like indicators. So mainly starting out with a mentor is what I would mostly, you know, try to get to because you're not going to miss out on like the key factors that you're going to miss and you're going to make those mistakes until you learn it the hard way.
Yeah, the hard way. So blown accounts is one thing you said. And falling in terms of risk management, that is a big one for new traders who, three, four blown accounts before. I've blown accounts before. I think the biggest account I've blown was like $4,000, and that was a binary options account. So yeah, that's a tough feeling because when with blown accounts comes the climbing out of the hole. So once you blow an account, you're in the position where you gotta dig yourself out psychologically and trusting yourself again, and that's a big part. So how would you say that you've handled your losses thus far? You said you haven't blown an account, and I know all the losses you've taken because I've been right there beside you. But just to elaborate on them, like as for your psychology, the psychology of someone who's learning the method that you're learning, how would you say that you've handled your losses being a new trader?
In the beginning, even starting with you as my mentor, I mean, it's hurt my heart to lose money. Even though I was trading with cents, it still hurt my heart. And I mean, over time, as I learned the plan and I realized if you don't follow the plan, you know, you're more likely to lose. I just started following the plan and let that be like what I trust in. And then, I can take my trade and look away and trust that if I lose it, it doesn't matter because the next day I'll have another trade. And so, I mean, it's helped me expand, more than just in trading as well. Like I look at other things that way too. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll realize, as you progress in your trading journey, how much it like pertains to other aspects of life. And I just want to say, I think it's super badass that, your first teacher is Stefan because he's a very grounded trader. For all you guys listening that maybe don't know Stefan, he's someone that I've looked up to, ever since I joined CFX, and he's just a very grounded, well-rounded trader, and he's really good with risk management, as you said, one of his big strong points, structure, and just really making sure that he has a good confirmation before entering a trade. And I think that's so great for new traders because a problem people get in is, they just get so excited and you just want to jump into these trades and you're taking unnecessary losses. And as you said, when you lose at first, like in a prior episode, when I first started out, I had a $10 account. I was down like 8 cents and I was literally like in shambles. So I definitely get that, and it, it's not even just the money. It's like the aspect of just, losing. It's kind of a hard pill to swallow. So, I think it's awesome that you're learning from Stefan, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays into other aspects of your life. Like you said, how, you're realizing that you're starting to act that way in other areas as well. So welcome to the trading game.
thank you.
Just a spark on that, Logan. What would you think has changed your mindset in your like regular life because of trading? Because I know for me personally, I even told you like earlier, what was I doing? the baby. I was trying to get my baby to go to sleep, my son, and he was just rambling. And Logan was sitting at the chart on our Zoom call in the morning, and I couldn't get him to fall asleep. And I said over the mic to him that I said, okay, well, he's transitioning into sleepy, or crossing right over that transition into sleepy, and then I can leave him alone. But until we get to that point, I can't leave him alone. And it's the same thing that goes for trading. So do you have any examples that maybe not something so quirky, but maybe something in a more serious aspect that understanding trading and understanding the psychology and the patience that goes with it has changed your normal life?
To go off that, when you just said patience, that's something that's really helped me in, like, with, is being able to, just wait for what I'm wanting to happen, because I know that, things take time and trades take time. So, I mean, that's just one thing. But even in little things, like just driving down the road, like I see lights in a pattern and I think of candles. Like, it's the only thing that goes through my head for, like, you know, most of the day, other than when I'm doing 75 hard, which Stefan got me into. And I mean, even with 75 hard, that's something, it's a like exercise challenge. That's something I don't think I ever would have been able to do if it, you know, if I didn't already have a psychological grounding, built in my head.
Yeah, you're beating me on that too, man. Yeah, I'm like, let's start it together. And then I go to start it. I realize the scheduling issues that come with, working out twice a day and eating. That's the hardest part for me, is eating, but like 6 times a day. And yeah, discipline and patience and discipline. That's really the big one, because patience is one thing. I mean, even everybody has a little bit of patience, but most people don't have discipline. And I think that's what grounds people into 9 to 5s and grounds people into easy way outs that pay you for showing up and pay you for just being there, like passing the class, getting a C by showing up. And, you'll never be absorbently wealthy or absorbently free of stress because you're not at work. Whatever method takes you to trading, and discipline gets you there. And I agree with the patience part too. I still have to work on my patience, but trading has definitely made it a lot easier. I can see other things that happen in life and be like, okay, well, I can wait. I'll be fine. Where 5 years ago it might not have been like that.
Yeah, something else that it's really helped me realize is when you just mentioned 9 to 5, is like, now that I know the potential that comes with trading, I can't see myself doing anything else, because I see myself as slacking off if I go to a 9 to 5, because I could be making way more money sticking to a plan and doing forex.
That's the ultimate FOMO.
Absolutely. Logan, you mind if I ask you, like, just hearing from, a relatively new trader's perspective, and I know you have kind of like Stefan as your mentor, so you're probably, I know you said you've been for about 3 months, but with him, coaching you, you're probably like at about like a 6 to 8 month trader, because you've probably been taught all the right things as opposed to most traders who just start out. But like right now, what are when you come to the markets, like, when you're looking, like, what things do you face? Like, what things, like, do you feel? What are your fears? Like, I kind of just want to touch on, like, a new trader's perspective and, how that kind of develops, and over time you start knocking out these things. And I think it'll be definitely helpful to hear, how a new trader views the markets, and like before you enter a trade, like during a trade, and stuff like that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, at first, when I first started trading, I wouldn't take a trade without Stefan. I was scared to do it on my own. So, I mean, that was one thing that I've already knocked out, is the fear of, like, just entering the market itself, which can be pretty scary when you have money on the line. So, I mean, I got that pretty much knocked out of the way. And when I get a confirmation, I'll enter. I'm still hesitant sometimes because I'm a little bit slow with it still. But when I come up to the market, I have a pretty good understanding of structure. So I set up structure, I set alarms, and if I'm not with Stefan, I won't touch it until one of my alarms goes off, because I don't want to FOMO in, because that's one big thing that me and Stefan have encountered, and I've seen Stefan encounter it. So that's how I know it's something that I'm gonna have challenges with for like my whole trading career. So, that's one of the best things I can say is setting alarms and just not touching it until it hits where your bias starts, you know. And that's the first thing you should always do is get a bias and stick to your bias. Just because you see a different market doing something else, or you see someone in your trading group sent a reverse bias, you should stick with yours all the time until you get your correlation that says your bias is wrong. So, I mean, some of the problems I still have is trusting my own bias. Like, I want Stefan's confirmation. Like, is my bias good? But so that's something I'm still trying to get the hang of, is trusting myself. Um, yeah. Other than that, I mean, I'm pretty level headed. I'll go into the market and I'll take my trades, but then where it starts to get iffy is when I'm in drawdown. That's something I still struggle with. You know, I really try just not to mess with my trades. That's something Stefan's told me, never touch it. Just take your trade and let it go, because it's going to do what it's going to do no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. So that's I mean, those are the most important things, is fear and greed, and however you can avoid those to keep outside of it. And you've mentioned it a few times, and every point, just so everyone listening understands, every point he's saying in terms of holding your trades, not watching it, trusting your analysis, it all falls down to a trading plan. I know I like to circle back to this subject every single time, but you may not be able to see it now 3 months in, but in a year, we'll have another podcast and I'll show you where he's at, because we didn't cut, we didn't have to take all the all the weeds that you catch when you're a new trader. When you're coming from, even if you join a course, just joining a course, processing the information yourself and seeing the market as a naive trader, you're going to see things that aren't there, or you're going to see things to counteract yourself. A good example would be, a new trader would be, they'd enter a long and then they'd see a 1 minute head and shoulders form opposing their bias, and they'd sell. And I see that shit every single day, is a trader saying, well, I think I'm going to get out. See that head and shoulders? And I always say the same damn thing. Like, you're trading a 4-hour zone, or you're trading a daily zone, or you're trading a 1-hour zone, and you're taking a 1 minute confirmation to exit out of your trade. Little mistakes like that you might not think are big, but if you say that you cut yourself out of 2.5% because you sold early on that trade, you do that twice a week, you're cutting yourself out of 5% a week. You do that, 4 weeks, you're cutting yourself out 20% a month. You do that every single month for a year, look at the numbers. It's just going to keep adding up. So these little tiny mistakes that you can get out of the way early on in your trading, it's a good thing. So anyone who's looking to get into trading, you don't have to pay thousands of dollars for a course. Just find somebody who relatively knows what they're talking about to get you introduced, and then work forward from there. Because I mean, those are pitfalls that Logan here didn't even have to hit, and he even has some psychological strengths that I don't have. He's better at not entering a third trade, where I'm poor at not entering a third trade. If I see a reentry, I'm going to hurry up and take it. Whereas he might be more level-headed and avoid taking that trade, because you obviously shouldn't always take a reentry. But yeah, just speaking on those facts that you had that you avoided, I mean, that's a big deal, because that's going to save you, in terms of an equity curve, that's going to save you 6-7 months before it gets you back to that break even. Because, you have about a year of learning, and then you have about probably a year of break even, and then you work into your profitability. So, I mean, just anything you can do to cut that curve down, that's the way to do it. You don't need that 10,000 hours. I don't know if you've heard that, Logan, before. They say you need 10,000 hours of chart time before you can be successful, and that's just not true.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that, and like you said, with the whole curve thing, it's going to cut down your time in your equity curve. I also think there's a psychological curve as well. So if you can avoid, some of those mistakes, you're definitely, avoiding some psychological bad habits that you could pick up along the way. And one thing that you said that I really want to touch on is because I dealt with it a lot, and I laugh because me and my best friend, we would do this all the time when we first started trading. So like I would be in a buy. She was in WSA. I was in like another group that no one's really ever heard of. And I'd be in a buy, and she'd be like, "Yo, what's up?" And I'd be like, "What's going on? You know, I just bought like GU." She's like, "Oh, no way! I actually just sold GU." And like literally, I would just close my trade because she just told me that she sold. And sometimes it would end up going in my direction, and I would have won. But it's just the fact that like someone else said that they were in a sell. I totally was just like, okay, so I must not be seeing something right. So like I didn't trust myself at all. And that was actually an amazing point that you brought up, that I think groups can sometimes be, like a double-edged sword, because learning alongside a community can be amazing. But when you have people that start like dropping, the trades that they're in or whatever else, and like some people aren't in that trade, like that literally can make them just give up their whole, analysis and be like, oh, I was wrong, without even giving it a chance, just because someone else took the other side of their position. And that's something that I feel like is really prevalent for a lot of novice traders, is, they're heavily relying on like what other people are doing. And I actually want to use this time, because I wanted to touch on this last time we spoke about it. I didn't get to, though. The conversation kind of kept flowing, but I want to bring attention really quickly to Stefan, to your refinement group, because I know I kind of just touched on like a little bit of signal stuff, but signals, like for a while, for a lot of traders, they kind of look at it like with a certain stigma. And I think you're really changing the game for that. And I really respect that, because, when you have signals coming from a trusted person, and not only are you just, giving signals and giving people the ability to build an account, or, pass a challenge or whatever it may be, you're also teaching them and showing them, why you took those trades. It's not just like, oh, buy here or sell here and TP here. It's like breakdowns and analysis, and it's really allowing people to learn alongside you. And I think that that's really awesome. And I kind of just wanted to give you, the chance to touch on that. And Logan, if you have any experience with that, definitely talk about that for a minute or two.
Yeah, thank you, Kim, for the kind words. I started the refiner group with a buddy because we were talking about doing a trading group. And the trading group, we didn't know how we would, first of all, anything in trading that's free, you got to take with a grain of salt. Because if you get in content that's free, I mean, you're getting it from people, not free as in like a page, but like a Telegram group or a trading group that's free. When you're inside these areas, it's kind of difficult. And I think it creates a negative stigma about trading groups. And then signals are obviously a built-in negative stigma about pride and people who don't want a handout in learning how to trade. But the issue that I was running into with a lot of people was they wanted to learn and they wanted to grow. And what I was doing was I was holding one-on-one webinars. I was answering people's messages and inboxes. And it became a thing where I was just like, well, why don't I just have these people trade beside me? And then they don't have to ask me these questions all the time. They'll be able to see it. So it's a lot harder to explain to somebody how to trade or tell them how to, because everybody always has the same question when it comes to trading. They want to see their mentor sit down and trade live in front of them and catch the trade, read the trade, set their charts up, and then catch the trade that they read from the morning of. And then, so the whole process is laid out, the analysis, the entry, the TPs, the setup, all that stuff. And you just don't see that. And I understand why you don't see it as someone who's doing it right now. You don't see it because it is taxing on the individual doing it, because everything you do, you want to give. And then sometimes it's just, you just can't send that information out there. So it's hard to teach people to do things unless they're like right there beside you. So it's a little taxing sometimes. And I can see why mentors don't do it that way. And another reason mentors don't do it, not speaking about any of the mentors I've had, but sometimes people are just, they're scamming you, and you can't trade beside them because they can't trade, or the way they're trading, they're learning from somebody else and they're getting information from somebody else and they're shifting it your way. So I wanted to create another avenue that did both. The point of the signals is to pay for your membership to the group, but the group itself, I call a refinement group, because I don't teach you how to trade. I trade with you. and we talk about everything, and we all answer each other's questions. Everyone sends breakdowns, not just the signal callers, and we work on trying to get people to understand the process of trading more than trading itself, because everybody just wants to see your MT4 at the end of the day. Nobody wants to see, or everybody just wants to post their MT4 at the end of the day, and nobody wants to post everything leading up to that. And it comes with a counter opposite, is people don't really digest information of how to get to that money because they're blinded by the money itself. So the best way for me to figure it is create an avenue for you to create your own wealth while learning how you did it. I mean, it's giving you the footprints to take the trades, and it's explaining how you got to that place. So that's the reason I started it, and that's kind of a good outline of how I do it. Logan's inside of it, and I think personally it's probably helped him, but I'm sure he can lay more on that. But yeah, I had to do something differently that wasn't a signal group, because I know the stigma is a signal group, and honestly, that's not what we were ever trying to do. But just holding a trading group without having a means to compensate myself and my partner who's doing it with me, it's a lot of work. You know, we're getting in there every morning, we're breaking down our trades. Every time we take a trade, we break down the entry, the exit, the reason for the exit, the reason for the entry, the signal to get in, and then we're an open chalkboard for questions. So that's the reason that it's not free, but the money you can make with the information pretty much makes it free. It just depends how you like to use the resources you're given.
Yeah, and to touch on the refinement group and how it's helped me. It's helped me with my psychology a lot too, not just my trading. I wanted to touch on that because there's a bunch of other people in there taking trades, sending in, their biases, but they also, you know, are with you on yours too. There's no hate in there. It helps me when I enter a trade and I know I could send it in there and people will be like, "Oh, nice trade," or try to help me. So it helps me with my psychology and the fact that I know I have a group of people as like a second mind to help me just in case if I'm not trusting my bias. There's a lot of other words to be heard from other people that know what they're talking about. And then when it comes down to my trading, how it's helped me is, I'm seeing all their trades as well. So, I mean, just by seeing their trade and, why they took it and how they took it, it helps me expand my knowledge because maybe they took it off of something that I've never heard of before or, a reason that I should look into. But it's definitely helped me a lot. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. So just another idea or another question I want to put out there for you. You as a new trader, what would you recommend? I would just say two things, just to keep it simple. What two things should a brand new trader focus on? And it doesn't have to be so bland as to say risk management, but what are two things that a new trader should focus on that they might not even think about had you not traded beside me and had you went the traditional YouTube, Google route? What would you say are two things that should be focused on when you first start trading that you wouldn't think of from all the information that's public on the internet?
The number one thing that I've gotten from you that I think has saved me many times and made me a better trader right off the bat was recognizing price action. And like if you're going to start trading, look up price action and study price action because that's what moves the market. So that's, I would say, key number one for me. And then number two, really just try to, work on your psychology because you're going to want to trade and you're going to make stupid decisions. It's inevitable. So, doing things like, reading self-help books or, trading psychology books, reading, things that other people have went through on their journeys because you're going to hit the same exact things and you're going to see how they got through it. So, I mean, right off the bat, if you have good psychology, it's going to change the game for you.
And what would you say um, in terms of psychology? Because anyone listening who doesn't trade and hears psychology, they just think of like psychologist and they just think of like thinking. They don't understand how it breeds into trading. So when you say getting better psychology, um, how would you define that in the simplest way for someone who's just entering the market? Because I know there's fear and I know there's greed, but what one impulse, I guess you would call it, what one impulse should they try to work on getting over first?
For me, the main impulse to get over, when it comes to psychology is trusting your bias. So the psychology, when I'm saying that, I'm meaning, having a trading plan, creating a bias, trusting it and following it. You know, that's the biggest thing about psychology when I say that is taking a trade and not leaving it because you're scared to lose money, or you know entering a trade when there's no liquidity or no structure around you just because you want to make money. So that's what I mean by psychology, is basically your bias and how you feel about it, trusting it.
Yeah, I agree. I actually very agree. That's a very enlightening point to make is, and some other traders might like the terminology that they might understand is like trusting your process. Same exact thing. So like Stefan touches upon a lot, trade plan. If you have a trade plan, and you follow your trade plan, you do everything, and you're in that trade, don't just exit because, like he said, you see an M1 Head and Shoulders, or, you're just getting nervous or whatever else it may be. Like you have to trust your process from point A to point B. And, and that's a very awesome point to make, especially from someone who is such a new trader, for you to have that, knowledge and stuff like that. It's very intelligent of you to say, and that's great advice, for people who are new. Because that's one of the things that even people who have been trading for years struggle with, is still, trusting their process. They enter trades and they exit early, or, they hold longer because of greed or whatever it may be. They move their stop loss because they don't want to lose, like whatever it may be, they mess with their trades. And that's not trusting your process. And so that's an amazing point to make. So I appreciate you, bringing that up and talking about that.
No problem.
Yeah, it's in terms of like the easiest way that I can explain it to somebody who's new is people who are new tend to, when they're winning, they don't want to lose money. So when they're driving fast, they want to put their brakes on. And when they're losing, they want to make their money back. So when they're driving slow, they're just slamming on the brakes when they should be going slow. And when they should be going fast, they're stopping because they don't want to lose money. And it's the opposite direction. So when you're doing those two things at once, you're selling trades early because you don't want to lose money, or you're not letting your trades run because you don't want to lose money. And then you're taking additional trades because you want to make recoup losses. Those two things both lead you backwards in that general direction. And that's where trusting and you're using the word bias. I think a better word would be analysis, trusting your analysis in the morning, because bias could be moved freely. It's just up or down. At least that's in my opinion. But yeah, trusting your analysis, trusting what you came to the market in the morning and what idea you had, and then just trusting that's going to go, especially after you enter the trade. And the best, I'll tell you right now, me and Logan, we wake up in the morning, we set our trades up, and we play Call of Duty for 3 hours. And when an alarm goes off, we come back to our computer, we enter our trade, and the second we enter the trade, what do you think we do? We go back to playing Call of Duty. You don't sit in front of this screen any longer than you have to. Now, you don't have to play video games. I just have to do something mindless that kind of captures my focus. Because if I watch a movie, I'm going to pick up my phone. If I'm sitting in front of the computer, I'm going to check my chart. So what can I do to pull myself away? Go to the gym, go for a run, play a game, whatever entertains you to the point that it might take your mind off the fact that there's a trade open, the better. And for someone who's new, Logan's trading with $100 on his first account. So he'll be down 283 and he'll be glued to this fucking screen. I'm like, Logan, Like, let's go that way and let's relax a little bit, because if you're going to lose, you're going to lose. If you're going to win, you're going to win. The issue is you just have to set up a plan that has the right side of probability. And that's something that new traders don't understand either, is it's probabilities. It's not about making money. It's about building a system to make money. You're just a middleman. The trading plan makes the money. You press a button. And believe me, you as a button presser is just as difficult as you as a trader, because you're going to get in your own way more often than not, and you're going to step on your own toes. One question I wanted to ask you, Logan, before we get to the end of this, in terms of one thing that new traders struggle with a lot, which I guess I really didn't get too much of it. I got a little bit of it, but not much. How would you say reactions from friends or family have been when you introduce the idea of trading? And I don't really know that you have anybody negative in your life, but I know some people would be dropping out of college for this, or they would be giving up high-paying job for this. So what would you say is how have you handled family and relatives being negative about you changing career paths, or maybe changing jobs, or maybe changing focuses?
Yeah, I hear you. I personally haven't had really any negative, you know, backlash, but which I mean has probably helped me a lot in my trading because it hasn't made me really second guess what I'm doing, you know, where that's probably what happens to a lot of new traders is they have a family member or friend be like, that's risky. Be like, well, duh. There's this thing called risk management. So, it is going to be risky, but if you take the necessary steps to become a trader, it's worth more than anything you could ever imagine. I mean, you're home 24 hours a day. You get to be with your family. I mean, so at the end of the day, when they tell you that, and then they go work 50 hours a week, and you're chilling at home with your family all day, they're going to be the ones that were like, oh, maybe I should have listened to him. So, I mean, really just being confident in yourself. Don't let what other people say get in your head. I mean, it's the same thing with the trade. Trust your bias. Don't let someone else's bias change your trade. Don't let what someone else says about your life change what you want to do with it. So, I mean, even if someone was negative to me, I'd just brush it off because that's just how I am. But if you try to keep it that way, it's going to help you a lot.
Yeah, you're lucky in that aspect, because I hear that from everybody. It's like, well, no one supports me. And you're right in that. It's like, of course no one supports you. They don't. And the way I explain to people is they don't understand. They don't understand you generating income from watching lines form on a computer screen and money just pops out. It doesn't make sense to people. So for anyone listening that has a family member who's negative, just keep on trucking through it like anything else, but just understand what they're trying to say. They probably just don't want you to burn a current bridge. So if you're going to get into trading and you're going to work towards it as a full-time gig, you can't afford to half-ass it, because you have to be elite. It's not like a 9 to 5 job where you can show up and you got that buddy that you work with, you hate working with him because he sucks, but they won't fire him. He's not going to go anywhere. He's just slow. He just doesn't work quickly. That guy won't make it in trading. All you're doing is working with all the best guys, and everyone's competing with each other. And especially when you're competing with multi-billion-dollar hedge funds and you're competing with global national banks. I mean, and you and me just sitting in our living room, we're doing the same thing. You have to show up and you have to have your A game, and people are never going to understand that. So you have to be the one to, like you said, be confident and, tell people off when they speak down on your dreams, because I say it all the time, it's a money printer. That's what you're doing. You're building a money printer, so you never have to worry about that again. And I mean, it's even if it's a 5-year grind. I mean, if you work at a regular job for 5 years, let's say you start at 15, what are you lucky to be at 22, 23 in 5 years? Maybe. I mean, if you spend 5 years learning Forex, you're going to go from trading pennies to millions. It depends on how much effort you put into it and how much time you put into mastering it, and not plateauing yourself, not stopping right when you think you know enough. Instead, continue pushing further and learning more and, digging deeper into it, because like anything else, there's so many intricacies to it. There's intricacies just to like a 5 minute candlestick that you could spend, an hour seminar explaining and breaking down of a 5 minute candlestick on the 1 minute, on the 30 second, on the 15 second. And it was something so complex as trading. Yeah, it's really hard for people to understand.
Yeah, and one thing I want to touch on, because you kind of said it briefly, not fully, but it kind of popped this idea into my head, is a lot of people will push off things. They'll say, oh, I'll start it next week, I'll start it next month, I'll sign up for this in 3 months, whatever. Or they're like, you know what, this is going to take 4 years. I'm not going to do this. And the reality is, like, in 4 years, you're gonna wish that you started. You're gonna wish you did it, because, like, say you're 24, say you're 25, and someone tells you you could be, a trader, but it's gonna take you 5 years. And people are like, oh no, I'm not investing 5 years into this. Well, on your 30th birthday, if you didn't start, you're still gonna be, where you are, maybe somewhere a little better, maybe you got a career promotion or whatever, but you're not gonna be a trader. And you're going to turn 30 anyways. So you could be a trader and have 5 years of experience under your belt, or you could, turn 30 and be maybe a little bit better off than you were. And every time you push something off, if it's going to take you X amount of time, like, it's just taking you that much longer. You know what I mean? So guys, like, if you really want to start something, just start it and get it done, because when that day comes that, it does blossom, you're going to be so much happier that you did start when you did and that you put in the work. Because, there's nothing like when your buddies say that they're going to sign up for something and they do, and you're like, yeah, I don't know. And then, like, they start taking off and you're kind of like, oh, I wish I did that when they started. And, so just really, like, buckle down, put in the work necessary, because it's so worth it. And you've heard me say it in the past, like, growing as a trader makes you grow in life, and it is a very satisfying journey, both on the charts and off the charts. And it's something that, someone can't take away from you. Like, you literally put in the time, you built a skill set, and it's just, like, so awesome that you could literally, like, look at a chart and identify something and pull money out of the market. Like, that's badass. I don't care what anyone says, that's so badass. So yeah, I mean, if you guys want to start something, if you're thinking about signing up for a course or something like that, do what you got to do, because it's really worth it in the end.
And just to finalize and touch on that a little bit more, if you're going to start on it, you need to go 110%, not half-ass it. Don't just study. I had one guy who came to me asking for help with the trading plan, and it turned out he said, well, I trade from 6 to 8 p.m. at night. And I said, why? And he's like, well, I got school and I got work and I got this and I got that. And I'm like, bro, you got to lose some sleep. I'm sorry. That's just, there's sacrifices that have to be made. And if you're not willing to do all of those sacrifices, it's not going to work. You can't just half-ass for 2 years to be successful. You're going to turn your 2 years into 4 years, because the clicks or the aha moments that you have in trading, they're earned through chart time and digging into your plan. And the speed in which your mastery comes is only in tune with how hard your work ethic is in learning it. And the best thing I can do for anyone who's learning, thankfully Logan got there, is to be obsessed. You need to be obsessed with the markets, because if you're obsessed with it, it's easy for you to spend 2 hours studying something. When I'm bored in the house, I don't go to my Xbox. I go to my computer and I backtest USDJPY, or I backtest Euro Great British Pound for 5 days and just have a blank idea. It takes time and it takes a lot of work. And if that work is work for you, I either recommend you get, you just spend some grueling hours until you love it, or if you love it, you really spend those hours while you still do, because you're going to have times where you really just are defeated. And if you're somebody who's been half-assing it, you're going to quit right there. If in 2 years you blow your account, and in that last 2 years you haven't been giving it your all, you're going to quit, because you're going to feel like you wasted time. But if you spent 2 years hustling and grinding, that's not going to be the case. It's going to be the opposite. You're going to be break even. You're going to be profitable. You're going to be hitting aha moments. Even if you're, a slow climber, it's about how much you put into it, and that's how much you get back out. So and as Kimberly said, it's 5 years to be a trader. Well, if you work 5 years at a job, you might be a little well off. most jobs for most normal people, you're not going to make over 150 a year for most people. And if you are, you're either one, you have some kind of degree that you put money into, which speaks to you as a person, which is what a trader would have to do. You put money into education into growth. Or if you're somebody who didn't go to college, or you didn't want to go to college because you got into, look at me, I worked at a grocery store, and I got to a point where I was doing pretty well financially with them, but that for me was the end of the road. And that point's going to come for everybody, especially if you know about trading. If you know about trading, that point's going to come sooner than later when you're like, why the fuck am I still doing this? Like, I need to be spending time at home studying or learning to do this, because I can spend 5 more years at this company and make maybe an extra 15, 20K a year, or I can spend 5 years doing Forex, and the sky's the limit. It's really as much money as you put into it. I mean, if you spend 5 years doing both, save that money and then work, and then use that money when you leave work, and then that can fund you through the next 5 years. And I mean, what other job can do that for you? So I don't recommend you half-assing it, because you're going to regret it in 5 years, and you're going to end up quitting, or you're going to be that guy circling inboxes. And trust me, nobody is going to help you but yourself. You can learn content, but execution and branding these pictures in your head and seeing what you're supposed to see, nobody can teach you it. I will literally hand you my trading plan and watch you fuck it up, because nobody can trade something that they haven't built. Nobody can trade something that they haven't learned the intricacies to. These questions come up all the time. And if you're the type of person who just wants to snail by and then ask for help, it's not going to work out for you. So just to get back to where we started, if you're going to get into it, get into it. You need to be studying 2-3 hours a day. You need to be trading 5 days a week. And if you're not trading, you need to be staring at the market when you plan on trading 5 days a week, or it's all going to blow up in your face, and you're going to be looking back and wishing you hustled from day one.
Yeah, you made a lot of amazing points there, Steph. And one thing that I want to talk about that you touched on was that, I've had questions from people, and I can't emphasize this enough. People ask me a question, and I'll give them, the answer to it, and they're still just not getting it. And it's like, you didn't put in the time. The reason why, like, we can almost act on like intuition is because we have solidified in our head from hours and hours of staring at, this one particular situation through back testing and this and that. Like, that's why we can act like that. But if I give you an answer to a question and you can't act on it, it's not working for you on the charts, like, it's because you simply just don't have the experience, and you don't have the confidence in it yet, because you haven't put in the work to gain that. And it's like, a lot of people, they'll be in your inbox and they're asking for something, and it's like, it's just not clicking for them because they're just not doing the work. And it's so important, like Stefan said, go 100%, put in that work, because with trading, someone can't give you one answer and it's going to change everything for you. It's just not. Like, you have to do the repetition. You have to get that stuff ingrained in your head. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to act flawlessly and be a button pusher, because you're never just going to know, deep down that, this is going to happen most of the time. If someone tells you something once, you're never going to be like, oh, like Stefan told me that if this happens in this zone, then, I can pull the trigger and it's going to work out and whatever else. But Stefan knows from his experience that when he sees that resistance and that support and this and that this is more likely to happen than that. But he's not going to explain all that to you in his answer. He's going to say, when the price gets to this level, if this happens, this is more of a high probability trade. But I hope I'm making sense when I'm saying this. But like, there's something in his head that knows, when he sees something on the charts, okay, when I back tested, I saw this play out and this is what happened. So really, like, give it your all, guys, because when you get to that point where it's like solidified in your head, that's when the game starts changing for you.
Yeah, it'll literally be a click. It'll literally be a click. And that's the best way to explain it. Aha moments and clicks. You'll get to a point where you're like, shit, that works. And then it will just go on from there. My aha moment was the way I enter my trades. And ever since that day, I've just been building an upward slope. So you just got to keep working. So Logan, thank you, bro. I appreciate you staying up a little bit for me tonight and getting in on this podcast. I'm sure, your words are going to help other people. If you want to throw anything out for socials for people to contact you if they have any questions. If not, no biggie. They can message me and I can direct them to you, or I can, help them out the best I can.
Yeah, I mean, if they message you, just send them my way. But thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Logan, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to hop on. It's been really refreshing having like a new trader's perspective. So it's been a pleasure, and I thank you again.
Thank you very much.
See you tomorrow morning, bro. We're gonna mark it.
Sure. See you in the morning.